That's what I'm looking for. So let's go ahead and get started. Sorry about the delay. Again, there was research done and took a look at why 70% of executives fail within the first 18 months of taking their role, regardless of whether or not they were external or internal hires, right? So the survey was of 2,600 Fortune 1000 company executives. And some of the information that they found out from the executives was 76% said that their formal development process was inadequate, right? You see there. And also 55% rated their coaching subpar, if it existed at all. But that still didn't answer the question as to why they had such high success failure rates. So some of the executives said they've never had been trained to lead, but they're in an executive role, right? Some of them say they didn't prioritize active listening and learning when they had that opportunity, right? Some of them say that they lack the cultural awareness of their people and of their organization. So a couple of critical factors missed by a lot of folks along the way. That's who I am, a little bit about me. As you will see there, one of the proudest moments that I have is that I'm a student mentor for a local college here in North Las Vegas. The course itself, that's just a description of the course. That is a description of the 12-module course. The 12-module course takes 5 days to complete. There is an exam, 2-hour oral exam, so there's no written exam or quiz or anything like that. The objectives for the 12-module course listed there. And you can see all of this information with the slides and everything in the same location where you got the course information for this particular course. There's a PDF as well as the slides are listed in there. So no need to take a lot of extensive notes along the way. Learning objectives, as you will see, are listed there. And ways to kind of leverage this certification. So a lot of people ask, so once I get a certification in executive management, executive presence mastery, what can I do with it? These are some things that we recommend, suggest that you'd be able to do with that type of certification. These are going to be the 4 areas that we are covering today. When we're talking about executive presence, we're talking about executive presence being that set of viable leadership signals others read as credible, trustworthy, and authority, right? During high stakes moments, sometimes not so high stakes, but it shows up through clear thinking, calm pressure response, steady communication, and consistent follow through across the meetings that you have with your personnel, conflicts that may exist in your organization, and any type of uncertainty that may exist in your organization and or in your industry. Understanding executive presence basically means that we seeing how others read credibility, authority, and trust from our visible behaviors. It includes things like verbal clarity, nonverbal control, and decision habits under pressure. It also requires consistency across the settings that we may find ourselves in, and reliable follow through. And you'll hear those terms quite a bit throughout this very first module, reliable follow through. So understanding executive presence, it means that we inspire confidence, command attention, build trust, and developed through practice, right? So when we're talking about inspiring confidence, it causes others to expect competent and steady leadership, right? That's what it does for others. Commands attention. It focuses the room through presence, clarity, and control. That's why it's important to understand executive presence, right? We're talking about building trust. We're talking about earning belief through honest reliability and respect. And developed through practice No one is born a leader. Nobody is born an executive, right? These are things that we have to develop over time, over our experiences. And it's strengthened through reputation, feedback, and reflection. Building confidence. Building confidence and authority simply means that we're acting with steady self-belief while staying honest and consistent across the situations we will find ourselves in as executive leaders. That shows up when our words and our actions match, right? Especially when we're in situations of crisis, right? It also includes owning our limits, learning openly, and staying aligned with our or your stated values, right? So when we're talking about building confidence and authority, we're talking about project authority, stay true to your values, communicate clearly, and balancing humility. So let's look at project authority. Building confidence and authority projects authority. We as leaders are able to lead with clear direction, competence, and composed presence. I'll give you an example. You assign owners to a task, you assign deadlines, and you assess the success measures, right? That's what you do through projecting authority, right? Staying true to your values. Make the choice aligned with the principles. That's what you do as the executive, even in times of crisis or under pressure, right? We communicate clearly, deliver concise messages with the structure and the expected next steps, right? As an example, you open with the key points and the desired outcomes. You summarize the decisions that you make, the actions that you've taken, and the deadlines that you've met. When we're talking about balancing humility, in order to do that, we have to lead firmly while inviting input from the others within our organization or owning our own limitations, things like that. So that is what building confidence and authenticity is. Adapting to context simply means changing how you lead and communicate based on your audience, the stakes that may be in play, and sometimes timing, right? It includes selecting the right level of detail, the right tone, the right decision speed for that particular moment. It also means, keeping your values steady while adjusting tactics and your delivery as the leader. Adjusting the leadership styles, matching organizational needs, staying grounded in your values, and balancing collaboration and authority. When we're talking about adjusting leadership styles, we're talking about shifting your approach to fit the people, the stakes, and the timing for that moment, right? So as an example, in a crisis, you direct the task, you set the tight checkpoints. In planning, you invite ideas, you build shared ownership. That's what we're talking about in adjusting your leadership style. Matching organizational needs. You align your actions with your goals, your culture, and the constraints that may be on your leadership, your organization, or your industry, right? Stay grounded in values. Keep principles steady while changing tactics, right? That's what we're talking about. Keeping your principles steady, even when things are or have to change. It should not violate your principles. So if transparency is important to you, a change should not create an opportunity for you to sacrifice your principles, is what we're talking about there. And then balancing collaboration and authority. Invite input, then decide and drive that particular decision execution that may be in need. Gaining trust and respect. Gaining trust and respect simply means that we are meeting the expectations through the consistent behaviors of fairness and follow through. Others assess our or your reliability through what you deliver, how you handle pressure, and how you treat other people. They also judge intent through transparency, accountability, and how you respond when results fall short. So when we're talking about gaining trust and respect, we're talking about connecting with people, showing empathy, fostering team relationships, aligning with expectations. So what does that mean with connecting with people? That simply means building rapport through attention, curiosity, and follow through with your people, right? Showing empathy, recognizing feelings and the needs without losing your standards, your values. As you'll see here, empathy, this is a nice infographic here by Justin Meacham about empathy first. How to show empathy as a leader, 7 habits, listen fully, show patience, lead with fairness, respect boundaries, things like that. Leading with empathy, presence, perspective, compassion, clarity, consistency, all those things are important. And then you have some simple ways to show it on a daily basis. And when we're talking about aligning with expectations, basically we're talking about delivering to our stakeholders what they've needed, and when they need it, on time at the right quantities that they needed, right? Things like that. That's what we're talking about when we're talking about gaining trust and respect. So here is a boardroom reset scenario. So by all means, you can pause the video later to read through it and review it, and actually take an opportunity to do the 1-minute student test tasks you see here, right? But the boardroom reset scenario at Horizon Care Foundation, the COO, Lena Ortez, leads a sudden service outage briefing with the board. Her slides are accurate, yet her tone, see that word? Her tone wavers. Her eye contact drops, and the action items stay vague. Directors question her readiness. Later, during a team huddle, she shifts to collaborative style, asks for inputs, and assigns owners and sets deadlines. Very important. Staff respond with energy and clarity. Lena reflects on the values, seeks feedback, and practices concise openings for future stakes meetings next week. Again, you can pause the video, read through the scenario yourself, and give yourself a chance to complete the task you see there. But I want you to keep a couple of things in mind when you are addressing the questions here. Executive presence shows through voice. It shows through your focus. It shows through your eye contact. It shows through your decisions and your decision clarity, especially during times of pressure, right? Board settings demand an outcome first opener, an outcome first opener. This is where we want to be by this time. Outcome opener, clear decision rights, and the specific steps of who's doing what and when are they going to be doing it, right? Team huddles often benefit from the shared input, then firm ownership and timeliness, right? So a couple of things to keep in mind along the way as you're answering the questions to the scenario. Reflection questions. Each of these sections here will have reflection questions. There'll be 4 reflection questions. And again, you can always pause the video to kind of digest what's going on there, answer the questions yourselves along the way. The role of confidence in leadership. The role really is to provide a steadiness when uncertainty and pressure rises, right? It strengthens your influence because people commit faster when direction is clear and calm, right? It also supports execution through decisive decisions, choices, consistent standards, and visible follow through. So, to achieve or to understand better what confidence in leadership looks like, It instills trust. It encourages follow through. It shows competence and preparation, and balances risks effectively. So when we're talking about instilling trust, basically all we're talking about there is others rely on your judgment and your steadiness as their leader, right? Encouraging follow through. People act because direction feels firm, right? They act because the direction feels firm. Show competence and preparation. Your work reflects mastery and readiness. That's why they feel confident to follow you. And then balancing risks effectively. You weigh the trade-offs and choose your controlled moves. That's how they feel that you have the competence and the confidence that you need to lead them. Confidence in your decision making. That basically means you're selecting a direction with incomplete information sometimes. We're going to use clear criteria and judgment to work our way through some of the incomplete information. It shows up through timely choices, communicated trade-offs, the give and takes that may have to occur, and the ownership of the outcomes. When we're done, this is what it looks like, and I take full responsibility for that particular decision that I made in this situation. It also includes committing resources, right? Sometimes you have to give up something. Monitoring the signals and making adjustments when the mission itself or when the tasks start to drift a little too far to the left or too far to the right. You have to be cognizant of those things, especially as it relates to your ability, your confidence in the decisions that you make. So when we're talking confidence in decision making, we're talking about maintaining focus in uncertain times, right? Keep priorities clear when the facts shift. When change occurs, you have to keep the priorities clear, even if they do change, right? Inspiring team actions, right? We have to create that momentum through clear direction and ownership. When things have changed, this is the new focus, these are the new priorities, and this is the direction we're going to move in, right? If you have questions, concerns, issues, you bring those things to me as the leader, things like that. Building trust through clarity. Explain those decisions. Explain what the trade-offs might be and whatever the next steps will be as you move forward. Support informed decisions and informed decisive choices, right? You do that by using evidence, right? Using good sound judgment and timing discipline, right? Timing discipline is equally important. If you have important information, you have to get it out to the people. Do that. Don't hold on to it. That's what we're talking about there. Confidence. Confidence in communication means speaking with clarity, calmness in your pace, and a clear purpose, right? If you brought them in the room and you have something to communicate with them, it has to have a clear purpose for why they are there. It shows up when you lead with a main point, right? As I told you early on, we're here to discuss executive presence mastery. Use simple structure in answering those questions without defensiveness, right? It also means matching your tone and your nonverbal cues to the messages so others act with confidence, right? That's the ultimate goal, is that others can act based on your direction with the confidence that you got their back, right? And that can be done. Confidence in communication means conveying authority, framing your messages effectively, connecting with the audience needs, things like that, ensuring purposeful delivery, right? Conveying authority means that you speak with clear intent and steady presence. Framing your messages effectively means that you're organizing your points around outcomes, content, and your actions. Here's a great framework here for organizing your message. Start with a clear purpose. Use simple, direct language. Align your message with the team or the mission, right? Reinforce key takeaways visually, those types of things. Connecting with your audience needs, meaning that you're going to tailor your content to what the listeners must do. If you are working specifically with your HR teams, that content should be specific for your HR team. If you're working with your supply logistics personnel, it should be specific to your logistics and supply chain personnel, right? That's how we connect with our audience needs, ensuring the purposeful delivery. I have to match my tone, my pacing, my body language to the intent of my message. If I have a fun, easygoing message that I want to get out there and convey to you all, that's exactly how my tone, my pacing, my body language will demonstrate. If it's a very serious message, it'll be a very serious tone, very serious pacing in my communication, and my body language will demonstrate the seriousness of the issue. Balancing confidence with humility. That means holding clear standards and making those decisions while remaining open to feedback. It shows up when you credit other people for work that they've done, right? When you ask questions and you admit that you don't know some things, right? But you can do those things without losing your direction, without losing your credibility. You can do all those things because it also includes you saying, hey, I made a mistake, right? I have to own that mistake. But I also have to be clear on the direction that we'll go from here. So I'm taking a corrective course correction, right? And I'm treating dissent with respect. Although you disagree with me, I will treat you with the utmost respect. That's about balancing confidence with humility, right? Some ways to demonstrate humility, as you see here, right? Admit when you're wrong, right? Ask your team for input. Share credit with others. That's what we're talking about here. Acknowledging mistakes, seek feedback, encourage collaboration, and build on that mutual respect. That build on that mutual respect is basically you are treating people fairly, you are listening well, and you're holding the line. You're holding the standard, right? That's absolutely acceptable. If, as we talked about earlier, if the mission starts to shift a little bit, you make the necessary adjustments, the small adjustments, and you continue to hold the standards along the way for your organization. Confidence under fire scenario. Right? Confidence under fire. So during a quarterly earnings call, CFO Nina Patel at Westbridge Energy must explain a sudden margin drop. Analysts press for answers. Nina stays calm, cites prepared data, states her clear recovery plan, and she names the decision triggers for spending cuts. In a follow-up meeting, she invites her directors to challenge assumptions that assigns owners and deadlines. Later, she admits one forecasting area. Thanks the team and requests feedback on her messages before the next board session. Again, 1-minute student task listed below. You'll see here. I want you to keep a few things in mind as you are working through those tasks. Confidence rests in preparation, clear criteria, and a calm under pressure. Strong openers state the headline, the impact, and the next steps. Decision confidence really shows through stated trade-offs and clear triggers for change. Again, 1-minute task there. Feel free to pause the video along the way. Reflection questions, 4 reflection questions for this particular module you will see here. Feel free to pause the video again to work through those reflection questions for this particular module. Communicating with clarity overview. That means that you're organizing your messages so others understand the point fast and know what to do next. Fast and know what to do next. It uses very direct language, a simple structure, and a concrete actions with owners and deadlines. It also includes confirming understanding, and summarizing decisions to prevent the rework. Nobody likes to redo their work. Communicating with clarity articulates, when you communicate with clarity, it articulates ideas effectively, reduces confusion, and aligns teams with goals and enhances your executive presence. So when we're talking about articulating the ideas effectively, we're talking about presenting a clear point, clear support, and clear actions moving forward. When we're talking about reduces confusion, when you do these things, this works out really well because it removes the vague terms and confirms a shared meaning so that everybody who leaves the room understands what it is you're wanting from them as the executive for the organization, right? Aligning team with goals, link the tasks to prioritize and expected results. You have to link it. That way people understand why they're doing what they're doing. Why they're doing what it is you've asked them to do. What does it mean to them? What's the input or the impact requirements to and or from them? And then enhancing your executive presence reinforces credibility through your ability to be concise and steady in the delivery of good and or bad news. Structuring effective messages. That means that you, as the leader, are putting information in an order that supports quick understanding and action. You remember we had the list earlier, right? You can use that same template, right? It starts with the headline, then context, then the asking of the questions. This is the issue. This is what we're trying to achieve, right? It has to start there. Followed by who owns it. This is what we're trying to get to. This is what I need from each of you. Mike, Tom, Sally. These are the dates and times I need to buy. And, by the way, this is going to be the measurement that we utilize to determine whether or not you actually met that standard. Right? So when you are communicating and when your messages are effective, you're really reducing the extra detail and keeps the points tied to the specific outcome that you are asking from your members, right? It prioritizes key points, simplifies complex concepts, and ensures a logical flow and the use of concise language. So when we're talking about prioritizing key points, we're talking about leading with a main takeaway, then give them some detail. Simplifies complex concepts, translates detail into outcomes, steps, and measures. If you see here, this 7 C's, very important for effective communication, right? Completeness, consideration, right? Courtesy, correctness. All those things are critical to the success of effective messaging. Ensuring a logical flow. If you notice with my slides, for instance, they go from 1 to 1.1 to 1.2 to 1.3. That's what you see. That's what we're talking about, a logical flow. That sequence of information from the purpose to the action. And then the use of concise language. Use your short sentences and remove any filler words, things like that you might have in your messaging. Not necessary, get to the point. Choosing the right medium. We've been talking about how important it is for you to get to the point, get to the message, right? Especially in times when there's a sense of urgency. When we're talking about choosing the right medium, it means watching the communication channels to urgent, sensitive, and the complexity of the messages. Fast alignment needs live conversation, while complex work needs written references and shared visibility, things like that. It also means considering the audience preferences so that the message gets read, understood, and acted upon, right? So if, for instance, we're talking about adapting to the situation. If you have a very urgent situation, you need to pick up the phone. The phone is a good way to get in contact with people rather than sending an email, rather than just putting it on their calendar, things like that. Considers the tone and the structure. Shape the message length and the form to the context. If you have an urgent message, it should be short and concise to the point, right? It shouldn't be 6 pages long, because if it's urgent, No one will take the time to read through 6 pages of an urgent message, right? So keep that in mind. Recognizing the strengths of the platform. Each one of the platforms you see listed there, they have their strengths and their weaknesses, right? You have to recognize those strengths. Use each channel for what it does best. Important, what it does best. And then align the delivery with the audience needs. There are going to be time when some people say, I don't need this, I don't need that, just tell me that. All right, get right to this area here. And then there are other people who say they need everything. They need all the fine details along the way before they'll make any decisions, so forth and so on. So you have to really kind of tailor that delivery to the needs of your audience. If your supervisor or your leaders are the ones that you're up-channeling information to, they may be very direct to the point, or they may be the people who need all of the details. Transparency in communication means that you are sharing the key facts, the intent, and the constraints people need to act responsibly to, right? It includes naming risks, decision rights, and things like what's still unknown. It also involves inviting questions for corrective misunderstandings early, right? So getting the information out as quickly as possible is important. And as we talked earlier, understanding what the mode of getting that information out is going to be critical, right? But it's also important that we are building trust in our ability or to demonstrate transparency. We're encouraging questions, supporting constructive dialogue, and we are aligning our efforts effectively. So one of the things we can do is share information openly and promptly, right? Explain the decisions and the rationales clearly, and acknowledging our challenges and our setbacks. Be upfront about the business strategy, right? And share the facts, constraints, and decisions without hiding the details. The details are important, right? Especially if someone that needs to make a decision on something, right? Invite clarification and answers without defensiveness. They're not attacking you. They're trying to get to the facts of the situation that you may find yourselves in, right? Keep discussions on the topic, opinions, and the trade-offs. If it starts going left or right, people will get confused in the room on exactly what it is they are needing to act on. Your efforts effectively ensures everyone knows the roles, what they're supposed to be doing, who's responsible for what, the timeliness, and again, the measures that you as a leader will be using to decide whether or not they've delivered on what you've asked. The mixed channel message scenario. At Summit Rail Services, VP Operations Mark Lane announced a route redesign after safety incidents occurred, right? He sends a long email with jargon, leaving supervisors unsure of the priorities. Rumors spread in the chat. But the next morning, Marcus holds a short video briefing, headlining first. He highlighted 3 points, the actions with the owners and the dates he needed those things done. He states constraints, shares what remains unknown, and he invites questions. Teams align, field reports improve, and the board gets a one-page update and a weekly checkpoint cadence. 1 minute student task listed down here below. Couple of things I want you to keep in mind as you're addressing those 3 questions. Clear communication starts with a headline that states the outcome or your intent. This is what I need from you. 3-point structure supports that focus and reduces the side conversations that may occur. This is what I need from you. These are the 3 objectives here to get to what I need. Plain language beats the jargon, uses the use of acronyms, right? Especially during operational change, right? Transparency builds trust, states constraints, unknowns, and the plan to resolve them. So keep a couple of those things in mind as you address this particular scenario. Again, feel free to pause the video at any point. Same thing here, reflection questions. Feel free to pause the video to better understand what those reflection questions are, how they relate to the topic and to you. Building professional credibility. That simply means you're providing competence, excuse me, through quality work and sound judgment over a period of time. And yes, you have to continue to work on that with everybody because your people change, right? So it depends on integrity, where your actions match your stated principles and your commitments, consistent results, clear communication, and reliable follow through strengthen your confidence in your leadership. And I also assert those three things also strengthens the confidence of your members as well about your leadership. So building professional credibility ensures trust, or establishes trust, demonstrates reliability, aligns with values, and inspires confidence. Excuse me. When we're talking about establishing trust, we're talking about keeping our promises, right? Speaking truthfully about the situation and or about people around us, right? Protecting also the confidence that those around us have entrusted us with, right? That's what we're talking about when we're talking about establishing trust. When we're talking about demonstrating reliability, we're talking about producing consistent results, as you know, with steady follow through. We're not a one-time good job leader. We have to continue to demonstrate that we're able to do that because people rely on us, right? And then we align with it aligns with our values, making decisions consistent with stated principles, right? Some people have a decision framework that they will use. You may have one of those, right? And it also inspires confidence. Helps others feel safe to act and commit, right? That's our role as a leader, is to help others feel safe to act and commit. That's how we inspire confidence as leaders, and that's how we build our professional credibility. Excuse me. Following through on our commitments means that we're going to deliver on what we promised, right? When we promised it, right? And at the expected standards that we promised it, right? It includes things like tracking our commitments, removing the blockers that may prevent us from getting to where we need to get to, and communicating early when conditions change, of channeling the information. I can't get there because of these three issues. This is an HR issue, this is a logistics issue, and I need them to be on board in order for me to get to where I'm trying to get to, right? You have to be able to communicate early when the conditions change. It requires that you are closing loops, right, with your stakeholders so that the outcomes are confirmed and sustained. Everybody wants the outcomes to be sustained, confirmed, and achieved, right? And when we follow through on our commitments, we are building reliability, reinforces our trust, requires discipline, and manages our priorities effectively. So when we're talking about building reliability, we're talking about people counting on us for consistently delivering. Again, good leadership is not a one-shot good deal. You have to continue to demonstrate that, right? Reinforcing our trust. Our actions must match our words over time. You can't say one thing and do something different. You will never survive as an executive leader, right? It requires discipline, the use of routine and standards to execute well, right? You have to be consistent. In order for you to be consistent, you have to practice what you preach, right? In order for you to be successful, you have to have a path to success, right? And you can't violate your own standards to achieve those things. And then managing priorities, right? There's some things you can control. There are things that matter. So the key is to find the things that you need to focus on, which is probably somewhere in between both of those two things, right? Managing your priorities is focused on the high impact work first. That's where high impact work rests. Ethical leadership means that you are basically making the choices grounded in fairness, honesty, and respect for the rules and the people. The rules and the people, right? You can't treat people differently. You can't treat them unfairly. You have to be honest. You have to treat them with respect and dignity. It includes things such as being transparent about the conflicts of interest that may occur in your organization, especially if you have partner organizations. There may be conflicts of interest. Decision rationale. You've made a decision, but nobody knows how you got to that decision. That's where your ability to communicate your rationale for that decision comes into play, and accountability for the outcomes. This was the desired outcome. This was the outcome that we got. I own it. We failed. You as a leader take accountability for the outcomes. It also sets that tone through that consistent standards, even when pressures are high or during conflict, crisis periods, things like that. So when we're talking about ethical leadership, we're talking about prioritizing fairness, promoting transparency, encouraging accountability, and sets the organizational tone. But what does that mean, prioritizing fairness? It basically means that we are applying standards equally across people and teams within our organization and outside of our organization. We're talking about promoting transparency, sharing reasons, constraints, and decision rights. Who owns the rights to the decisions that have to be made? We have to be clear on that. Everybody needs to be aware of that. And establishing accountability, setting expectations, measuring the performance, and addressing the gaps that may exist. That is your responsibility as the leader, to encourage accountability, right? You have to take responsibility and you have to take ownership of both the things you've gotten right and wrong, as well as the things that your team members have gotten right and wrong, right? And then setting the organizational tone. Organizational tone, as you see here, we're talking about the culture. We're talking about the communication style. We're talking about the performance of your organization. We're talking about your atmosphere. We're talking about the team approach, things like that in your organization. So it is so important for you as a leader to model the conduct that others should emulate, right? If I am leading with fairness and transparency, right, and clarity, that's what I expect you to be able to do as well. So I need to model that conduct so that others see me doing it, and because that's what I want them to do. Commitment to growth. That means you're going to treat improvements as a continuous leadership responsibility. It includes seeking feedback, reflecting on outcomes, and practicing targeted skills until they become a constant or consistent habit. Practicing targeted skills, critically important. It also shows up when, for instance, you admit to your mistakes or gaps, or pursue, if you say, you know what, I need to get better at this, so I might need to pursue getting a coach or getting some mentoring, or even gaining some knowledge, right? Or because I want to be able to apply what I learn better every time moving forward in the real world, in my real work, in my real role as an executive. So when we commit to growth, we acknowledge our limitations, we seek feedback, we improve our skills, and we demonstrate humility, right? When we're talking about acknowledging our limitations, we're talking about admitting, what we don't know. And that's okay to say that. I don't know, right? When we're talking about seeking feedback, that's us saying, I don't know this information. Can you help me with it? Can you show me where you think I may have a gap in my research or in my knowledge? And listen and act on that. If they give you that feedback because you asked for that feedback, take action on that feedback. Improve your skills. Practice targeted behaviors until they are consistent. Until they are consistent. As an example, you rehearse for key meetings. Practice, right? Get in front of a mirror, right? You role play hard conversations that you might have with an employee. That's okay to do because you're practicing targeted behaviors until they become consistent, right? And then demonstrate humility. That's what commitment to growth does. It allows you to stay open. It allows you to say, this is a team win, but I know the HR team was fully responsible for the success of this mission, right? Giving them the credit that they need. And where they fell short, those are my responsibilities. As you'll see here, a growth mindset and a fixed mindset. Failure is an opportunity to grow when you're thinking from a growth mindset perspective. When you're thinking from a fixed mindset perspective, failure is the limit of my abilities. As you can see, they're very different. We want to be on a growth mindset perspective, right? Growth mindset perspective. Credibility on the line scenario, right? At Silvercrest Public Health Program Director Jamal Reed commits to a grant deliverable and compliance update for the board. 2 deadlines slipped without notice and partners question the reliability. Jamal resets. So that means he recognized where he came up short. He resets and publishes a weekly tracker, assigns owners early risk alerts. A vendor offers a shortcut that breaks policy, and Jamal says no. No way. He rejects it, documents the decision, and briefs the stakeholders. He then asks for feedback, starts coaching, and reports measurable progress at the next meeting. 1 minute task here for you all. Feel free to pause the video. A couple things I would like for you to keep in mind along the way when you're trying to address the questions you see there. Its credibility grows grows from consistent delivery, clear updates, and closing the loops. Missed deadlines demands trust most when leaders stay silent, and or really vague, right? A tracker with owners and dates turns promises into a visual execution. So track those things that you've asked other people to do. That denotes that there's going to be some follow-up, right? And that's important because some people thrive in environments in which they have a set deadline to get things done, right? Perfectly normal. So a couple things to keep in mind there as you are moving through the 3 questions you see there. Same as before, reflection questions. Feel free to read through the questions, determine how they apply to you, and then address them as you see fit. Feel free to pause the video to do that as well. Research from the Corporate Executive Board estimates that 70% of executives fail within the first 18 months of taking a role, an executive role, regardless of whether they were an external hire or promoted from within. That's why an executive presence mastery course with MVP Training Solutions is very important. These are the 4 areas we covered today in this mini lesson. Also in the classroom, in the school classroom, you'll see a PDF, and that PDF will have the student manual as well as the slides that we shown here, and figures. Feel free to look at the figures that's associated with this particular module, as well as the worksheet, the confidence table worksheet in the student manual. Just a reference that we use here for the article. You can find more information about that article there. These are 6 of our 8 different social media sites. The QR codes, feel free to capture those when you pause the video. But for us, in my opinion, the most important one is here. If this is a course that you enjoyed, that you liked, and you'd like to see more of this, by all means, give us a Google review. and we'll put something together to see whether or not that suits the needs of the school community. That's who I am, and I'm going to stop sharing right now. Again, Dr. Parker here from MVP Training Solutions. Thank you all for joining. We definitely look forward to having you all in the next session. If you found this information interesting and you want more information about the Executive Presence Mastery course, you can go out to mvptrainingsolutions.com. You'll see under our executive training courses, certification courses, more information out there. Feel free to go out, review, and if that's something you're interested in, or even if you have more questions, by all means, reach out to us as soon as possible. Again, thank you for being here. Take care. Have a safe day.